take the steps that will reduce the impact of emotions to the maximum extent possible. Legacy, developing a wealth mindset for our children, our grandchildren, I believe out to 7 generations is what we should be working to do.
Last Week in the Market is now Right of the Chart, the podcast for self-guided independent traders. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the podcast. I am Sean Vincent. I am the voice of Right of the Chart. Adam Sarhan, he is the brains behind Right of the Chart. Adam Sarhan is the founder and creator of the AMPD trading strategy. That's AMPD. Today we're talking to a new friend of the show. His name's Denis Wilborn. We had a conversation with him last week. Denis is a swing trader. He's got a strategy that uses a lot of protective stops. In fact, his whole thing is that you put it on autopilot. He has triggers and orders to get him out of positions. He has a strategy for taking profit along the way. There's some similar things to the AMP trading strategy. Some things are different. It's a great example that there is no one right way to trade the market. It's important to find the way that works for you. We'll talk about his strategy and more today. But before we get to all of that, remember that in the market, the past does not predict the future. No results are typical, and there is inherent risk when trading in the market. This podcast is for educational purposes and does not constitute financial advice. I felt actually some relief Monday.
Yeah.
Because when the market's doing really well and you want to optimize your portfolio, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, right? And if the market's tanking and all your stops are triggered and you know what your return was now that you're back in cash.
Sure.
And, if I like to compare myself to the QQQ as my benchmark.
Okay.
And the more the market tanks and I'm in cash, the better my returns compared to the QQQ are. Right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, okay, if I can decide what the conditions are when I want to start opening my trading window again, then it's almost like a little time off. And the faster it rebounds, then the faster I have to get back on the horse and do the work.
And so now you work with Adam, right?
I do a lot of work with Adam. Yeah, I worked with him on his book to bring that to life back during the pandemic, and he introduced me to everything I know. Well, he got me started with everything I know about trading. And
so now, can you say? Well, you'll cut this out, but where are you guys located out of?
Central Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Adam and I we're both based in Central Florida. He gets around, but we joke about the weather here and all the hurricanes and all that all the time on the show. Yeah. So it's not a secret.
Adam's going to be on our webinar or on our podcast on Monday. And so as a friend who knows Adam very well, what sneaky question should I ask him?
A good sneaky question for Adam. This will be assuming that he doesn't listen to this before before Monday. But if you don't know Adam really well, Adam is in all aspects of his life like a light in the universe, right?
Okay.
And what's important to him is balance and family. And we talked about marriage and faith and other things that affect your trading.
Right.
I think Adam's a deep believer that if you've built a positive mindset and you keep, I've never met anyone who's faced really bad news with as much grace as Adam does.
Wow.
Because he's going to translate that into an opportunity some way or another. And he's got such faith that he's going to be able to do that he gets over the shock of the bad news real quickly and adapts, right? And I think that translates to his trading style. The book's Psychological Analysis. And it's all about maintaining the right mindset to be able to make informed, unemotional decisions in the market. Stay smart about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's an illusion to think that you can live your life making emotion based decisions and then somehow turn that off and
Mm,
make
mm,
trades without that emotion infecting it. And so
yeah.
Adam's the real deal when it comes to he lives his entire life with the same steady hand and reasoned out approach that he applies to his trading, and that includes his spirituality. It includes his family. Includes everything. So
Yeah.
I think if and sometimes traders don't want to hear this. There might be folks who are used to Adam and I talking during this half hour about you know macroeconomic headwinds and technical patterns
Right.
and
Right.
things, but I think that's what a lot of traders think they need to hear. Where right off the bat, when you and I started talking, and we talked longer now than I thought we would, and I'm really pleased for it, Dennis, because really, what's more important than all that um, is the balance and uh, clear assessment of risk. And then you talked about faith, and
Yeah.
faith comes in a lot of different forms. But I think if you've developed a system that you believe in that's worked for you, then sometimes you don't have to have a reason why you're going to make a decision other than that's your plan
Yeah.
and you have faith in the long term success of that plan,
Yeah.
and just
Exactly.
just leave it at that.
Yeah. And because that's so awesome, Sean. Because I mean, I watch my P&L. Yeah. Throughout the and basically I do a live show called Trade Your Way to Freedom on Fridays at what is it, 11 a.m. Pacific time, and I talk about that. I show people my P&L. Okay, here's my P&L, and it zigzags. No P&L. If a P&L goes straight up, or basically follows a straight line, the person's lying.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
and so a P&L kind of bounces around, follows the seasonality of the market and all that type of stuff, and right now my P&L is behind schedule, okay, for my
Okay.
yearly objective. However, I'm not worried about it, not making, getting close to my ultimate, objective for the year. Simply why? Well, one, I've traded the system now for over 15 years. I know what the results are. I know what tends to happen. I know that if I continue, it's the probability. If I continue to follow the path, stay on task, and let the system work, it will work out to be approximately, I will hit my targets by the end of the year.
Right.
And you said something also about that aspect of the emotions. Tom Sosnoff made a really great one of the best comments of Tom Sosnoff. You know who Tom Sosnoff is, right?
I don't know. No.
Tom Sosnoff is the guy who actually developed Thinkorswim, and
Okay.
he now runs a company called Tasty Trade. And but
I've
anyway,
heard of Thinkorswim for sure. Yeah.
okay, I'm not trying to plug Tom, but he
Yeah.
said
No,
something
that's
really
fine.
great.
That's what it's all about.
Great. He said, uh, wealth creation is the derivative of mechanically addressing opportunity. And
Mechanically addressing opportunity. I like that.
mechanically addressing, yeah. So that, if we know trading does, well, if we're anything having to do with money has got emotions attached to it, end of story. That's the way
Yes.
it works. So if we know that, what what I do in my business and coaching people is I coach them to take the steps that will reduce the impact of emotions to the maximum extent possible.
Right.
And we do that by the way we, one, use the system to we don't trade during market hours. We basically have our setups with the autopilot trading. We have our setups that I put out on Friday and Saturday, and then people put in, and it basically shows here's what I'm going to be trading, honed down to 5 stocks, and I follow 8 leverage ETFs, and I show them exactly where I'm going to be buying, but also I have the rest of the story in there that where to exit. Very important. So
Mm-hmm.
what to buy, when to buy, where to exit, including your stop losses, and then we use an automated conditional orders to put those orders in on Sunday
Yeah.
when the market's closed, and then literally people can go and just do whatever they're going to do for the week. Because the big driver for me, Sean, when I was first started, when I was developing the system, was I remembered working those 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 6 to 7 days a week, and I said, there's got to be a way to make it clear and simple where people can actually trade within 2 hours a week if they want to,
Yeah.
because we're all busy. And so that's what I did with the system. And
I love that. Well, no, but I was thinking about that. Like, I'm big into automating the exit points, and usually I'm more manual on the entry points. But like for the QQQ, I know
yeah,
there's a downward trend line off of the last lower high, and
right.
if we break out above that trend line, and other market conditions are right, I'm ready to take a position there again.
Yeah. Well,
And that's, you can automate that, is what you're saying, and that decision's made.
yeah. I mean, and basically the orders are in.
Yeah.
But I wait. Here's what I'm looking for. I have a very simple setup. I look for support or resistance, but support primarily stock of bullish support, momentum shift, and a reversal candlestick because I love candlesticks.
Okay.
And then what I'm waiting for is my trigger. My trigger is the break of structure. In other words, the break of the downtrend structure back up to an uptrend structure, which oftentimes
Mm-hmm.
means bopping above the 8-day moving average, and
Okay.
that's the trigger. And then the reverse, and then because I was also familiar with so many traders, well, where do I take profits? And they're deer in the headlights and that kind of stuff. And I said, well, I'm going to teach you how to be a winner. We're going to take profits at 10%. We're going to take profits at 20%. Then we're going to let a trailing stop that's adjusted to about 12.5% take care of the rest of it. If it goes up 50%, great. And then pops down to 35, you're going to be really happy with that. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not recommendations. It's just that those are the conditions I set in, and they've been working darn good. And what I
Yeah.
love, but the system's working good. But you know what? The biggest benefit that I get from it is when one of my members call me and say, Dennis, he goes, you know, I put in my orders on Sunday, and I forgot about it totally. I went on vacation, and
Mm-hmm.
and everything triggered. I was taken out with my profits, or I was taken out with a small loss. Or I've got a guy Patio. He's an airline pilot, and the same thing. He's flying from like Washington State over down to the East Coast. And he goes, yeah, I put in my orders right before I took off that day, and by the time I landed in New York, guess what? I'd made X amount, and it's not a promise whatsoever, but it's just that kind of thing happens. But for me, that is more than financial freedom. That's lifestyle freedom, and isn't that what we're all after?
Actual freedom
Yeah,
to do what you're
actual
not, and
freedom,
not
man.
feel chained down by even your investments. Yeah.
And so, because somebody made a comment to me the other day, Sean. They said, when you're a trader, there really is no such thing as a vacation.
Oh no.
and and the same guy came back to me and said, he goes, but he goes, I'm really pleased that I'm trading with you now, because I just went on vacation for a week, and
Didn't worry
I
about it.
had nothing to worry about. So and that and then and then the other parts of it that we don't talk about in trading is legacy, building, developing a wealth mindset for our children, our grandchildren. I believe out to 7 generations is what we should be looking to do. But then at the same time, and I'm going to get in my soapbox just a little bit here,
Yeah.
but at the same time, people recognizing and they're generous. I mean, generous with their time. But when people write back and say, I'm using my profits to pay scholarships to people who want to homeschool in my church, or I'm using my some of my profits to help build houses for the homeless and all that kind of stuff. And when okay, that means that what we're coaching and teaching is impacting not just the lives of people who are trading with us, but also a lot of other lives out there. And I think
Yeah.
that's a blessing that you got to get paid back for at some point in time.
Well, I've thought about this a lot since Adam showed me his method of trading.
Yeah,
Is that once you know how to make it work and you can make it work consistently and reliably,
yeah.
there's almost a responsibility to do it,
Oh heavens,
right?
yeah.
There's
I
a
love that.
responsibility to do it because you have that responsibility, first to your family, but then as you build that freedom and then you have surplus, now you can be more generous with your church if that's your priority, or you can have a scholarship for your grandchildren at one point, or for other children who you don't know who deserve to go, or
You
whatever
betcha.
whatever your passion is. And so if you have the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to produce wealth,
Yeah,
then it's foolish not to do it. And if you feel greedy and selfish keeping it all for yourselves, and by all means, keep generating the wealth and put it to the causes that you care about, and
yeah,
improve other people's lives. What a gift that is, right?
yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, yeah, and again, and I'm not necessarily an altruistic type of guy. I mean, I'm not. I
Sure.
mean, huh?
That's fine. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
go ahead.
I'm not, but at the same time, I've found that that becoming more generous is just so there's a reward to it that is so much above a financial reward. Like my wife and I decided we would sponsor a couple of two or three kids to go to our church's school camp, right? And so they
Yeah,
went and took these kids. Some of them living in poverty couldn't and so we did scholarships for I think three different kids, and it was a couple $100, per, and that's not a lot, but dadgummit, this past Sunday, all these kids who went to camp were on stage, and they were just absolutely. You could tell for some of them it had been life changing.
yeah.
And before I was trading, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been, oh, I got to hold on that money. So
Well, you're also generous in that you have this passion to teach and to share what
yeah,
you've learned with other people, right?
yeah,
And
yes,
that's the best gift too, because that if other people can use it to improve their lives and to reduce their anxiety and eliminate their fear and buy the freedom to go on vacation without
right on,
stressing about their investments, that's a huge gift. So
right on.
what I'm realizing is that there's this industry of folks who are doing the kind of thing that we do,
Yeah,
um, and everyone does it a little bit differently.
sure.
And but there is a common vocabulary, and there's common terms, and there's some conventional wisdom that guides all of it, and it's established and tested strategies that work. And by speaking on each other's podcasts and exchanging ideas in a public
Yeah,
forum where other people can benefit from that, that really
right.
makes it so that people realize, yeah, I think you go to a certain website and some guru or the Lamborghini guy,
Yeah,
right? And you see a lot of promises or this thing. Well, they don't have a specific secret that no one else has. They have their own tactic and their own way of
sure.
incorporating this style of a strategy, and that's their flavor for making it work. And I almost feel like it doesn't really matter where somebody gets on to that learning curve as long as they
Hmm.
get on that curve. And I love this cross pollination where different styles and different
Yeah.
approaches.
Now, are you a swing trader?
I guess sort of technically, you
Okay.
know, uh, it's I like what Adam taught me and what I got into it is the value of always managing your risk and knowing when you're going to get out and using
Right.
the
Right.
protective stops. Uh, I probably don't trade with the same frequency that you do, and I don't have pre-planned exits, and
Okay.
so I'm content to ride something up as far as it wants to go.
Sure.
I like to go to break even once I've cleared about 5% on
Okay. Yeah.
position, and then I give it a little room till about 10%, and then I start locking in profits
Yeah.
and walk it up. And I'm usually willing to give up. I usually end up giving up 4 to 6% at the top.
Okay. Yeah.
Usually things come
Yeah.
down when market conditions are different, and I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah. And we do the same thing. I mean, from the aspect is when our price action hits 5% above the purchase price, that will trigger an automatic trailing stop at either 7.5 if it's a stock 7.5%,
Yeah,
or a trailing stop at 10% if it's a leverage ETF. And what that does is, what my objective is I want us to help people start reducing their risk exposure as quickly as possible. So in other words, as soon as they get up to 7.5%, if it totally goes against them, that's a break-even trade. And
yeah,
then when we take out profits at 10%, again, that makes, even if it's a leverage ETF, if we take out first profits at 10% and our trailing stop is 10%, that trade is a winner. I mean, it basically, even if it goes against us, I will have made at least a little bit of a profit.
yeah,
And then when I hit my high of 20, I adjust my 20% is my last targeted profit. Then that adjusts my trailing stop to 12.5%, because most of the moves on both stocks and leverage ETFs stay in that in that window. And then I'll make adjustments if I have a technical reason to, like a strong swing low or something like that.
mm,
I'll adjust my hard stop up to that and let the trailing stop just continue to go. And I work that as an OCO order, and it works pretty good.
yeah. Clearly. All right, everybody, that's the podcast for today. I appreciate you listening through to the end. If you want to find out more about Dennis and his trading strategy, you can go over to autopilottraders.com. I think we'll hear from Dennis again on future shows. We'll be back next week with more. Until then, as we always say, keep your losses small, then let your winners fly.
That is more than financial freedom. That's lifestyle freedom.